What is up, guys? This is Tcg Sam here, and in today's video I'm coming at you guys with a Dogmatika Invoked Shaddoll deck profile. I know a lot of you have probably been requesting this, so finally got around to making it. It's probably one of the sleeper decks this format, really powerful, and not a lot of people are really prepared for it, so I think it's a very good pick going into this meta. So if you like this type of content, be sure to let me know by leaving a like, commenting, subscribing, and with that, let's just get straight into it. So starting off with the Dogmatika engine, 2 Yugioh. I think 2 is the perfect number. Even though you can technically add it back from the graveyard again and again, you kind of do want to open these, especially if you don't open a card like Alistair. This can kind of be like your additional normal summon, because cards like Punishment can actually kind of start your engine by sending Apcalone or Titaniaclad. So I think double Yugioh, really good. 1 Fleur, obviously, and 1 Maximus. I am main decking Maximus. I think this card very powerful in this format. The only deck that you really kind of have to be worried about is, of course, the Mirror, but like I said, not many people are on the Mirror, and Drytrons, like, they'll get a lot of value off of that, but other than that, like, the Maximus is really powerful. And even in game 1, if you do Maximus a Drytron player, it's not the end of the world. You do get a lot of advantage. I don't think they can play through cards like Winda anyways, unless you draw like Droplets or something, so Maximus definitely really good. Of course, 3 copies of Alistair, there's no explanation here. And then for the Shaddoll lineup, it's really small. 1 Wendy, 1 Ariel, 1 Squamata, 1 Hedgehog, 1 Beast, 1 Dragon. You don't want to draw too many of these. They're not that great to draw. You only kind of want to send them off of cards like Shaddoll Fusion from your main deck, or Anaconda to send like fusion spells. But yeah, there's not much to really say about this. These do offer a lot of really powerful utility effects like Ariel or Dragon. But yeah, other than that, like I said, you don't want to draw them. So minimum Shaddoll count. For the hand traps, 3 copies of Ash, most generic one this format. I am also playing crossouts, so you do need to cross out targets that are very good against your deck. So like Ash is a really powerful card against this deck, which is why we're playing it. 2 Veilers, 1 Bell. Veiler really powerful against Tri-Brigades. It's also pretty good against this deck, so crossout also hits this. And the 1 copy of Bell just for, like I said, crossout. Bell could hit cards like Nadir Servant or Invocation if you don't have Magical Meltdown up, so that can be huge in stopping that. I do play Imperms as well, but I put those with the traps. So that's it for the monsters. For the spells, 3 Meltdown, Terraforming, just for consistency. Meltdown also really strong. Of course, don't forget its other effects to protect your fusion monsters when they're summoned, and protect your fusion spells, especially when you're activating them. So going second, like, your opponent does kind of have to consider if they want to negate Meltdown, just because it protects your fusion spells from being their activations from being negated. And then 2 copies of Invocation. This is all you need, a very standard ratio. And then 3 copies of Nadir Servant, probably one of the best cards in your deck. I personally think this is probably the best card in the deck. It just gives you so much utility by sending cards from your extra deck and getting access to your Dogmatika engine. And then 3 copies of Shaddoll Fusion. This card really strong to draw going second. And I only play 1 copy of Shaddoll Fusion. We have a very small Shaddoll count, so we won't be fusing with the Shaddolls too often. The only times, like I said, we really want to be using the Shaddolls is with Shaddoll Fusion going second. Also, if you really need an Shaddoll Fusion, if you have a handful of Shaddolls, you can just search it off of Apcalone. This is why we play 1. I would recommend you still play 1 as opposed to cut it, just for the possibility where this would be better than a card like Schism, maybe game 2 or 3, because it's chainable. When your opponent has like Lightning Storms and back row removal, your Schism is really vulnerable to that, but El Shaddoll is not. So that's it for the fusion spells. Double Crossout, Call By. You can play a 3rd Crossout if you want, but Call By just does the trick, so if you only have 2 Crossouts, Call By's okay. That's it for the spells. For the traps, 3 Imperm. This is really strong against like a lot of the meta decks. Good going second if you draw it. And just a good crossout target in general, because it also hits your cards like Alistair. And then finally, for the last 2 traps, 1 Punishment, 1 Schism. Very standard. Punishment is very strong in this deck. Essentially lets you get access to either your Apcalone or Titaniaclad for further plays, or Entis for an extra pop, and of course Schism, self-explanatory. So that's it for the main deck. 40 cards. You want to keep it as consistent as possible to draw all your powerful spells, because you have so many like powerful spells in your deck, which is also why we're playing a card like Crossout. If one of your power cards like Alistair or Nadir Servant resolve, you pretty much just be in control of the game from there. So that's why we play cards like Crossout, to ensure that it resolves. For the extra deck, 2 Construct. Only playing 2, don't really have the space for 3, but I also find that you probably don't need 3, just because you have you can essentially close the game really quickly with the Dogmatika engine with cards like Fleur de Lis. Of course, the invoke stuff also helps you close games faster, so it probably won't come up where you need 3 constructs. So double construct, totally okay. 2 copies of Window, this is very standard. One of the best floodgate monsters for you to end on. And then double app clone, you do have to play double app clone in this deck just because you're going to be usually sending one off of Nadir Servant or off of Dogmatika Punishment. So it's really important you have an extra copy for if you want to summon it as a disruption on your opponent's turn. This is very, very underrated. Sometimes I do prefer this over Winda against certain decks just because of how strong its floating effect is. Like once you permanegate something, it also floats, so it's kind of a threat your opponent has to deal with in addition to having one of their cards negated already. So yeah, double app clone. That's it for the Shaddoll monsters. For the invoked part, 1 Mechaba, 1 Raijin, 1 Goides. This is all we play. Mechaba, obviously, this is the one you can make a 1-card Mechaba with just Alistair. Raijin, I like this one just because its effect is also a very strong disruption. In fact, you guys can cut this if you really want for a card like Purgatrio or just an extra like 3rd construct if you really want, but I feel like Raijin is really strong because of its disruption effect. Like, a Book of Moon against most decks is really powerful, especially against like Tri-Brigades that can essentially just shut off their entire turn. But like I said, if you feel you can't make this consistently enough, because we only play 1 Wendy, but I do also like this because a card like Drill and Lockboard exists, so getting to make this when your opponent drills you is also really strong. And of course, Goides is pretty self-explanatory. Very powerful card that once you send something onto Nadir Servant, next turn you can just banish it. Summon a Goides. A Goides helps you close games really fast as well. So that's it for the invoked monsters. That's pretty much all you need. If you're summoning Alistair more than like 3 times, I think you probably should have already won by then. For the other fusion monsters, 1 Entis to send off of Nadir Servant or Punishment, extra utility. And then Titanic Clad is very standard as well to send if you want big access to a bigger Dogmatika engine. If you, let's say, you have access to all of your Shaddolls and your Invoke stuff already, this is just a really good card to send. For the Link monsters, Almirage, Gardna, we aren't just playing Artemis. You do specifically want Almirage into Gardna because Almirage gives you an extra deck monster for Maximus to banish. If you draw like Alistair plus Ecclesia or Nadir Servant, this can be a really, really powerful combo. So you do need the extra deck monster in the graveyard to banish with Maximus. Even though it does take up a lot of space, I still think it's definitely worth it just because of how powerful Maximus is. 1 Gravity Controller, this is pretty standard in Shaddoll decks. Essentially lets your construct search any Shaddoll card in your deck. And then finally, 1 copy of Verte Anaconda. This is really strong because it allows you to send cards like Shaddoll Fusion directly from your deck. If you're playing into an established board, your opponent has negated a lot of your stuff. Any 2 monsters essentially becomes a huge blowout, either Super Poly or Shaddoll Fusion. So you definitely want to play a card like Verte Anaconda. I believe at the time of recording, it should have gotten reprinted. So it should be more accessible from there. But yeah, Anaconda, really, really strong card. Also helps consistency like turn 1 in really weird situations. If you're able to get like an Alistair that's negated and then like an Ecclesia on the board and like you have a handful of Shaddolls, you can still fusion summon with the Shaddolls turn 1 using this. So that's it for the main and extra. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this deck profile. If you did, let me know in the comments below what you think of the ratios, what you would change. And stay tuned for a combo tutorial / test hand video or duels with this. Let me know if you guys want to see that in the comments below. But with that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video and I will see you guys soon. Take care.